Hey all, boardgamerants here, where you'll find everything solo tabletop gaming and more. Today we're going to take a look at Dune Imperium, a kind of a deck builder-ish sort of game from a solo standpoint. Of course, let's have a look and I'll tell you what I'm thinking on either side. All right, Dune Imperium, a deck building game with a twist, or maybe probably a better description might be, part deck builder. Because especially solo, you're not going to be, I just feel like you don't get to shuffle your deck all that much. So, part deck builder, here's the deck building part. You got a stack of cards, you got a buy area essentially. Here's the cost to buy these cards and be able to put them into your deck. This is my starting area. I'm going to play this guy. And then when you're playing AI, you play against two AIs. But instead of having a deck of cards, which the game comes with, you can choose to use the app, which I will always use the app when I can avoid extra shuffling. Also, too, the app adds to the game. The solo variant that came with it had no way of kind of cycling through these cards, so you had cool, interesting stuff to purchase. It was only you buying cards, which that was an odd thing to leave out. But anyway, the app fixes that. It adds kind of randomization and removes cards, just like these guys are buying cards. They don't actually buy cards. They don't use any cards, but it does actually cycle through this. So the app is a big improvement, really, too, on play solo. So what are you doing in this game? Well, first, you're going to play in a number of rounds, and the first to 10 points. So there's not a whole bunch of points. Points are kind of hard to come by. First to 10 points essentially ends the game, and you see who won. But there's an element of deck building, of course, but there's also an element of worker placement, where as you play your cards, you are going to be placing your agents, your workers, out on the board, someplace that your card allows you to, and then activating that action on the board. And there's also sometimes there's stuff, depending on the card you play, sometimes there's stuff on the card that you get to activate. So that's how, one way that it differs from a normal deck builder. The other way is this spot here, this conflict area. So every round you're going to be flipping over a conflict card, and whoever wins the conflict is going to get goodies, and second place is going to get goodies, and third place doesn't get anything. When you're playing AI and you're playing 3-player, third place gets nothing. You have to get first or second place. And you start off, depending on what level you're playing, you start off with troops, represented by these cubes, in your garrison here. And so there's two stages. You have your supply. These don't do you any good until you get them out either into your garrison or into the conflict. So that's the three spots: conflict, garrison, there. And so there's this mix too while you're playing cards and doing your worker placement stuff that's going to allow you to enter the battle. And then of course the AI is going to be out here, it's 2 cents, having stuff here and there, and joining the battle as well. And at the end, after you've basically played the cards that you can, and you can only play as many cards essentially as the number of workers you have. So in the beginning it's 2 for everybody, but there's an action out there that you can take that allow you to purchase a third agent, which allows you to take basically 1 more action per round, which is huge. So that's, once you're done, once you don't have any more agents to place, we can't really play any more cards except for during what's called the reveal phase, which is sort of at the end of a round. Once you've used all your agents, then you basically use your cards, sort of like the end of your turn in a normal deck building, where you can use your cards to buy stuff. Except for there's a few other things, whatever cards you have left in your hand, you're going to be able to buy stuff, but it also might add to your strength in conflict. Because right now what you do, and it tells you right here, every cube is worth 2 strength. Every sword symbol you can get out play is worth 1. So like here, I would have strength of 4, green would have strength of 4. Yellow had strength of 8, and then depending on the cards that I drew here, I would be able to add to that. So let's say I'd had drawn these cards here, and I had played the 2 cards that I played maybe would have been dagger and signet. So then my 2 workers here. So what would have happened is these guys would have been played out. Once I played, let's say dagger first, I would have had to put my worker on a green action space. So I'd have to go out here, find, and up there's where the green action spaces are. Then you've got the yellow action spaces there, and then across the bottom here, kind of the sand areas. And then the blue action spaces are just these 4 right here. And then you have also these 4 faction spaces that you can take turns on, and those give you goodies, and you can develop your alliances with certain factions, be it the Fremen or the Bene Gesserit or the Space Scene Guild or Emperor. So anyway, that's the whole theme of Dune in here, but I can't say the theme really comes out all that much. I mean, the gameplay is just fine, even if you don't know Dune. But anyway, the point again is when you play a card, you're limited where you can put your worker by the symbol here. So I could only put on green there. With my signet ring, I could put this green, put a guy on a green, blue, or yellow space. And then, or if I'd played diplomacy, that would allow me to place my worker on one of the faction actions there. So, and then when you play your card, the other thing you get to do besides put your worker out there, and sometimes there's things, if I put my worker here on Hardy Warriors, I'd have to pay a water, and then I'd get, some more military or whatever. But the other thing too is you have to look at the green bar on the card, because you get to activate the green bar, or I'm sorry, did I say green? The gray, the gray bar on your card. And nothing there, but here, if I played Signet Ring, then I get to, place my worker, do that action out on the board, and then I get to activate my ability, which right here, you've got different characters, all with different abilities, their signet abilities, and there's also too a whole bunch of other characters that you can play and mix in. And on the back of this, on the back of each card is a little reminder on how you play the game. Little player aid there. So again, after you've played your cards that have you putting your workers out, then you might have some cards left. And in this case, now you look at the blue bar on the bottom and you get to activate those. So with those 2 swords there, that would increase my strength over here by 2. So I get to go boop boop for the final battle. And then this 2 is sort of like your money, your influence. That's what allows you to buy, I could buy the voice here. So, and then that would go into my discard, and all these cards would go into my discard. And so what we've done is, starting from the top, we've put out a conflict card so we know what we're fighting for. Drew a hand of 5 cards. Then I take my agent turn until I run out of agents, and same with these guys. So what happens, let me show you real quick. So it's pretty easy to set up. Solo game, you pick who you're playing. I'm playing that guy. I'm going to be going against you and you. It's awesome. It gives you your starting resources. You've got 4 different levels here to choose from, which changes up the starting resources and stuff. And then a little bit more on the setup, and then bam, you're ready to begin. So yeah, then after that, it's just as simple as, like, to activate green here, I just draw this card. It tells me to put his worker on Arakeen up here. Boom. And so it blocks that space, and then it's going to get its goodies, and then you hit the thing again, and this guy's going to go over to fold space. Boom. Increases influence, and it just tells you exactly what to do. I mean, it's that fast. I'm done. I'm literally done. Well, with this guy, he got like anyway, AI turns super fast, super easy to implement. And the way you get points basically is by increasing your faction alliances. And once you reach these are the symbols for victory points, then you move up on the track. 1, 2, 3, etc. And the first 10 activates the end of the game, and you're done. And back to what we were talking about here. So you basically you're gonna take your agent turn, which allows you to play a card, and then you put your worker on the board space that matches. You got to pay any costs, you earn the rewards, and then eventually, once you run out of your agents, then you have to take a reveal turn, which is where, like I did, I had 2 swords that I added to my strength. I was able to purchase a card, and then you go to combat. So now combat is pretty cool. Right now, straight up, yellow would win first, I would win second, green, excuse me, would get nothing at third. However, I can, there's actions out there that allow me to draw intrigue cards, and these intrigue cards you can get have all sorts of different cool things on them. And one I'm looking for here is one that, ways to get extra points, how to use your spice, other extra points. I'm looking for, geez Louise. There's also, there we go, military cards here that can give you some surprise military strength. So so that it can help you win battles out there, which becomes very important. So over here, once you've got the base set up there, you're going to draw. And so I draw for green first, and I'd add 1 strength to green. So this is how the AI can kind of surprise and come back. Oh, and then yellow is going to get 1, 2, 3. So there we go. And now I can play my intrigue cards to try to boost my strength if I want to at least come in first or second or something. And then the combat is over after you get your goodies there. And then it's basically just, and then you place a spice marker. So yeah, out here, these are going to gain spice. These will become more available as people don't take those actions. They get more and more spice on them, which is very valuable. But you play it again and around and around and around again until somebody gets to 10 points and you get to see who won. And let's go ahead and see what I'm thinking about Dune Imperium. First and foremost, I'm not a huge fan of deck builders, not anymore, because when Dominion came out, I mean, that was the first of the first, and we played it to death, and I still have most of my Dominion stuff. I didn't get all the expansions. I kind of stopped after the first couple, and then got into Thunderstone because it was just way cooler because of the whole fantasy theme of it, and I liked some other mechanics that it was offering, and played that a ton. I still have most of that as well. Or again, I stopped after it just kept, there was just this regurgitation process of expansion after expansion after expansion. And it was kind of, the first games that really started doing that, where it was like, here's a game and now here's an expansion for it, and another one and another one. Now it's kind of commonplace, but back then it wasn't so much. And so, I kind of stopped. But I had picked up like Thunderstone Advance, I think is the latest one, with Barrage or Barracks or Barracks, I think is what it is. The expansion that turns it into official solo. But then I returned it. I exchanged it. I took it back, and because I just know with deck building, the novelty of it has so wore off, and I'm just tired of shuffling cards. I don't know. You play games for 2+ decades, you just get to where you just kind of had enough with the deck shuffling, building stuff. But they're still appealing to me. And some of my favorite ones have been Apex. When I borrowed that was a good one. The Aliens Encounters, Legendary, that was a good one. But back to this one. So just so you have a background on what I think of deck builders. Now, thankfully, Dune Imperium, I would say this is not really, I don't know, from a solo standpoint, it feels less deck buildy. Sort of like Mage Knight, maybe. Mage Knight, there's a deck building element to it, but it's not like what the game's about. I don't feel like this is a deck builder. Mage Knight is not a deck building game. You get to add stuff to your deck, but it doesn't feel like it. I mean, it's a small element. Here, it's a much bigger element. But there's also a worker placement element with Dune Imperium. There's also this what I really enjoy is the whole craziness of the conflict and going for those cards and trying to get first or second player, trying to get something out of at the end of each round, because a lot of times it's good stuff, and many times, especially in the later rounds, it's points, which are hard to come by, and you kind of almost want to save your strength for those last rounds. And so I find that if it was just a deck builder, I'd probably have the same, I could do without it, but because it's sort of a smallish, it's just an element, probably a good third of the game, and its mechanics revolve around deck building. So it's not, the main thing, I would even say, because there's this worker placement component. You can get blocked out of areas, so you got to play cards to make sure you get into spots before the AI does, which is cool. That's a cool thing to have to think about. You usually don't have to think about that with a deck builder, but also too, you're not shuffling a lot. I would say, I played this game 8 or 9 times, and there's been times where I've shuffled 3 times, I think, just 3 times, and there's been times where I've done upwards of 5 to 6, I think. If I'm trying to recall, but yeah, so I don't know, 4 or 5 times maybe do you get to shuffle the cards that you bought and get to play them. And of course, near the end, you buy cards and you're not going to be able to probably use them. So there's less, but I have no problem with that because I'm not terrifically fond of deck builders, so it doesn't bother me. But I think it might bother other people who are looking for a good deck builder. Playing it solo, you're not gonna. I just don't feel like you really get to really enjoy the cool things of really building a deck a certain way and then enjoying that way that you've built it. So, but that aside, setting this game up, and it takes, 5-10 minutes. But then once you've got it set up, it's a 5-minute setup. Very quick to just play again and again. It's really easy to reset. The AI is nothing. When you use the app, which is what I would recommend using, it's so easy to run the AI. This is one of the easier AIs, and it's cool especially with the conflict thing, where it can be very frustrating though, because the AI has, I swear, it just has all the advantages. I mean, it tends to run to be, it's tough to beat the AI and get the first place in these conflicts, unless you really save up for the final battles, which is kind of what I've sort of, as I've been playing, I'm 8 or 9 plays in, that's what I'm sort of understanding, is I need to let off the gas in the beginning, let the AI get the chintzy stuff and build up, and then really pour into those conflicts and get those last few to have a chance, because the AI just churns out the military. It really does, and it can be a little bit annoying how well it does it. I mean, sometimes I swear just one of the AI is just like all military. Just like every time it draws a card, it just adds military strength. I mean, you can never beat it sometimes. But so that's a little, annoying, but at the same time, then again, you can save up for the bigger battles at the end that really matter, or you can get intrigue cards, which really increase your odds of being able to pull off some big, win a conflict when you would have otherwise lost. So the intrigue cards add a cool little element. And the fact that you're kind of playing a character is cool, because they give you little signet abilities, which is kind of unique and not overly complicated. But I digress. Back to, so setup and teardown is going to be pretty straightforward. I have no problem with that, and the board doesn't look all that fantastic. It's not a great looking game on the table, but very practical. So table space is going to take up the better portion of a maybe 2 by 3 feet is what you're going to need. You can probably jam it all in on a 2 by 2, but so it doesn't take up a big amount of table space. Length of play is a good solid hour for me, because you really, at first it moves along really quick, but then you really got some decisions to make at the end and stuff. Where do you want to, do I go all in on this battle or not, and stuff, and it can take a little bit of time. So, but a good hour, I would say 45 minutes to an hour is about the play time once you've got it down, which is nice. That's a nice quick play time. I like that. Components again is. Yeah, well, the component quality is fine. It's just, the art and the stuff, just, I don't know. There's nothing that bedazzles the eyes while you're playing this game. It's just, I don't know, very average looking game and average components. But for the price, I think it's very, good value there. Solid. Just average value. I think I paid $50 or something for this game, and that's seemed about right. I got what I sort of would expect in this day and age. The theme, the whole Dune theme, you don't need to worry about it if you haven't read the book or seen the movies or anything. It's cool to be able to relate to the names and stuff and know where they're coming from. But other than that, the gameplay is just fine, whether, no matter what theme it was, I think. So, which is almost a little disappointing if you're really buying it. Like, oh, some people are just obsessed with Dune, and you get this game, and again, you'll know all the names, but it doesn't really, I don't know that it really plays into the game so much. It's just more of a look. So the rulebook was very straightforward, very easy to I don't know that I hardly ever had to look up an FAQ on this. It was weird. The apps, there's 2 apps you can get to run the AI, and I did the one that you would think you'd do first, but then it was like, no, do this one wolf something or other. I don't know, that's the one you really want. So that was a little weird, but Other than that, the rules are nice and crisp, and they all it's a well designed game. This really is, and it adds this from a mechanical standpoint, it really adds just good elements of deck building, good elements of worker placement, and then this cool I don't know this grand finale of each round where you battle, and just a quick battle. And you get to do that over and over and over again. And that's, not a bunch of times. You're going to play, I don't know how many rounds you might play on this. Probably 6, 7 rounds, 6, 7, 8 rounds maybe before someone hits that 10 points. So you don't get a lot of rounds in, but each round is just fun because it has kind of all those 3 elements to it, and they all work really well together. So in general, the solo design on this, I think, was well done. I think it's the app is the way to go to make it easy on yourself and not have to, because the game comes with cards and you can shuffle those in it, but then it's not going to randomly take stuff out of the buy area like the app does and stuff. So very important, I think, to play with the app. The difficulty levels you can play, it's hard. I've done pretty well on novice, but I'm kind of playing, to veteran. I've never beat it on veteran. I mean, there's expert and extra expert, and so, but I think that just has to do with I don't know, maybe I'm just not very good at the game, but I mean, the military strength of the AI, I think, is, I don't know, I felt like it needed to be toned down. So right now I'm playing between novice and veteran. I'm playing right in between there, and it's kind of a sweet spot for me right now. So again, maybe I'm just not very good at the game, but it offers a great challenge, so I'll give it that. Good replayability, it's fun. This is kind of borderline. Would I keep this in my stash? Would I not? I think it's kind of borderline. It's good enough to contemplate keeping it in my collection, but it's, yeah, I do still want to play it more. So we'll see how that goes, but very solid. This is just a good game, good solo game, and thus far enjoying it, and probably will for the next few plays, and then we'll see how that goes. But any comments, questions, leave those down below. Thank you so much for watching on boardgamerants, and I'm out! Can you see that light right there? It's annoying. Looks like the moon. Looks like I had another moon in there. Whoa! Oh, the shooting star. I can see my finger. God bless it.